Now, here's the thing. Is it time to legalise cannabis in the UK? And I touched on this yesterday. This is one of those subjects that ordinarily you would just kind of leave alone. It feels like a bit of a, I wouldn't say tired, but just an argument that has happened some time ago. Nothing's moved forward. Once in a while, somebody will make some noise about it. But generally speaking, it's not gone anywhere, has it? Not in this country, that's for sure. You might have missed the story that thousands of cannabis smokers descended onto London's Hyde Park this week to defied police and openly smoked away in defiance of the law. It's called the 420 rally. 420 being the date, 4 being April, 20 being the 20th. However, 420 also means 20 past 4, which they argue is, smokers argue, is the perfect time to spark up a joint. Despite warnings not to smoke the drugs, pot enthusiasts descended in their thousands for the annual pro-marijuana rally. It's an annual. I knew nothing about this. I've done this job forever. I knew nothing about the annual marijuana rally. Activists are calling on the government to legalise the Class B drug and risk arrest by using the illegal drug at the event. The organiser said it's not just dirty hippies that smoke marijuana, although quite a lot of them. It's older people, business people, academics, all sorts of people use cannabis in a responsible and active way, they said. Now, I've never really been a cannabis smoker. Well, I've never been a cannabis smoker. I think I'm probably too much of a fan of a clear head in that respect. Look, I'm just going to put some kind of loose fors and againsts here, okay? And I'll let you fill in the blanks on this. 0344 499 1000. So I know this is pretty route one stuff, but when you look at what's going on around the world, it becomes really rather interesting. So give us a shout on this, whatever side of the argument you're on. Is it time for the UK to legalise cannabis? I think a lot of people would say yes. I'm really interested in the no answers as well. So the fact that, here's the first point, the fact that many countries, lots of countries, an increasing amount of countries are clearly legalising this is something perhaps that we should take note of. What I find fascinating is that over in the States, I mean, it's massive now. Look at all the states that have gone that way, from Montana to Oregon, South Dakota to Washington, Alaska to Arizona. They've all given it the big fat green light over there. And you might think, really, what, in America? Really? The strict church-led family values country that is the US? Yeah, that's what they're doing. So perhaps that's the first port of call, that there is precedent for legalising this in the modern age. It suggests perhaps they're onto something and maybe the UK is behind the curve. Perhaps one of the biggest arguments seems to be that if you legalise it, you remove the criminal intent. That means you remove street gangs who deal in drugs, the people who farm the stuff, and the inferior quality of street cannabis, or skunk as it's mostly known. I guess the other fairly powerful argument as well is in favour would be the medicinal side. Medicinal cannabis, many users claim that cannabis is a lifesaver. And in addition to all those points, it has to be mentioned that when you consider other recreational habits like tobacco, like alcohol, cannabis pales into insignificance when it comes to damaged cause, not just damage to the user, but to the wider economy, criminality, etc. In that respect, it's a bit of a no-brainer. But there are arguments against, and despite those positives that I mentioned, to legalise it would still mean that we are introducing another drug into the system, another substance that people could get addicted to, another substance that has the potential to send some people absolutely doolally, something that has the very real potential to cause anxiety and paranoia, in extreme cases, schizophrenia. Why would we want to create more addicts? And if you did legalise cannabis, would it be smoked, mainly in the same way that current infrequent users smoke cannabis, like a relaxing joint in the evening? Or would it be smoked in the way that people currently smoke cigarettes, meaning that we'd run into all sorts of issues like drug driving becoming a bigger problem, people getting stoned at work, half the population walking around like lobotomized chimpanzees because they don't know what day it is and have a constant craving for a packet of hobnobs. Is that the situation we would find ourselves in? I also spotted this story as well. The number of over 60s potheads receiving... It's a great term, isn't it? Are you a pothead, perchance? I think I am. receiving NHS treatment for cannabis addiction has more than doubled in the last 8 years. The number of over 60s receiving NHS treatment for cannabis addiction has doubled. Over 1,000 people, doesn't sound like a lot, but it's significant. 1,000 people in that age group sought help to kick the habit in 2020. In 2013, it was just 450. Experts warn that many dabbled with weed in the swinging 60s and now have got hooked. Thought, I'll revisit that. I remember those great days in Carnaby Street, wearing crazy clobber and smoking a big one as I walked down the street, hoping nobody was looking. And they've gone out to relive those moments, only to discover that what they're purchasing from matey on the street corner is skunk rather than cannabis, and it's sent their heads a bit funny, you know. The strain they're smoking, the THC level, as it's called, is far higher. It gives users a better high, but is more likely to lead to the issues that I mentioned about anxiety, insomnia, depression when it's used regularly. So it's interesting that the number of over 60s is really through the roof on this. There is a political plan from one politician to review the whole cannabis thing and look at decriminalisation of the Class B drug. But Boris Johnson's spokesman said illicit drugs destroy lives and he's absolutely no intention of legalising cannabis. I think, and I'm so on the fence on this, not morally, just in terms of how this would pan out legally. I think if Boris Johnson said we are legalising cannabis, he could be picking the curtains for number 10 at the next election. I think that would be, across the nation, on balance, I think most people would say, well, about time too, it's there anyway. At the moment it's illegal. That caused all manner of hassle and turmoil and upset for lots of people. So if he does that, that would make the Tories look progressive. It would make them look as if they understood contemporary life and have the first clue about what not just young people, but what people do recreationally. But would you? Yes, no, thumbs up, thumbs down, a big fat endorsement, or would you shun this at the first opportunity? Is it time that the UK, like many places around the world, legalise cannabis? I want the fors and the againsts, please. And your experiences as well, if you use it recreationally for health, whatever reason. 0344 499 1000. We'll hear two voices in a few moments, one for, one against, and your views to follow. Joining us now to discuss this, Ian Hamilton, Senior Lecturer in Addiction and Mental Health at York University, and Mark Mullins, Pastor at Strangers Rest Mission Evangelical Church, and also a criminal barrister. Ian, good afternoon to you, firstly.
Hello, Ian. How are you?
Very well, sir. Nice to have you with us. I know you are pro-legalisation here. What are the obvious, the most salient arguments as to why any government should give this the green light and make it legal?
Policy is inadequate in almost every way. So I think we're starting from a point where we could do far better than the current policy that's been around since the early 1970s. So in terms of people's health, I think the provided regulation and the model used has things built in such as minimum age, the strength of cannabis, etc. We could really protect people's health. And one of the things that's holding back one of the greatest health gains we could make around cannabis is the fact that it is illegal. So in trying to decouple tobacco from cannabis in a joint, so we know that most people use tobacco in a cannabis joint, we need public health campaigns and information, but that's currently restricted due to the illegal nature of cannabis.
One of the arguments is that an obvious one perhaps, if you legalise something, then more people will do it, and that can't be a good thing.
Well, fortunately, we've got a huge natural experiment going on in America, haven't we? You know, where multiple states have opened up access to cannabis in their populations. And although we do see an initial kind of curiosity increase in the number of people who perhaps try cannabis, that doesn't seem to hold out a year or two further on.
Let's put some of this as well to Mark. Mark Mullins, good afternoon to you, sir.
Good afternoon.
Nice to have you with us. Gentlemen. You work as a pastor.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
And lovely to have you. You're also a criminal barrister as well, so I'm sure you've seen your fair share of drug-related cases over the years. Yes. I mean, in terms of cannabis, it's Class B. It's seen as recreational. It's also got medicinal compounds to it as well for many people. What's not to like?
think the problem is that particularly the stronger strands, have a very close connection with mental illness, and it's often heard in the courts when mitigating that a person has suffered from mental illness as a result of their cannabis habit, and the connection is well made in the courts and well recognised. And society has a duty to protect people, and particularly the young and the vulnerable, who are the ones who will start. Whether it's the daring weed at the back, behind the bike sheds at school, or when you've just started at university. If we are going to legalise it, it's just going to make it more attractive, because it's going to be more available, even more available, and it's very available now. The fact that it is so available now is not, in my view, a reason to legalise it, particularly with the stronger strains. I think it's going to be very difficult to be able to distinguish between the strains, as I think has been suggested.
Wouldn't, Mark, one of the arguments, and I'm sure Ian will put some meat on the bones of this, but isn't one of the arguments that if you legalise it, you can remove all the bad stuff and make sure that what is being sold is only the pure stuff, and therefore doesn't contain those problems or those issues within it, the higher THC levels, etc., that cause the problems?
So you legalise. What's going to happen is, right, let's follow it to its natural conclusion. You legalise the lower grade cannabis, and then people, once they've got used to that, inevitably it's the thin end of the wedge. So they want to try something stronger, so they don't have to go to the black market. So all you're doing is encouraging, by doing that, you're opening the floodgates and just encouraging people to, once they've to taste cannabis, and then once you've tasted it, you go on to the
you want something more. I mean, Ian Hamilton, is that the problem? You just create a kind of another black market, as it were, because people don't much like the legal stuff.
I think there's some merit in that. What I would acknowledge is that, when you decriminalise cannabis, you don't remove the black market completely, but without a doubt, you make a huge dent in it. So I'd be the first to say that this isn't a panacea. We're not going to see the elimination of the black market. I would argue, I would spin it around though, and I would say that actually the attraction for some young people is the fact that it is illegal. And when a drug becomes legal, like alcohol, it doesn't stop young people using it. But what we do have is some measures in place to ensure that the quality and the strength of what they're able to access and who's supplying that there's a degree of control and standardization, and more importantly, people know what they're consuming. Imagine going to the supermarket now and buying a bottle of alcohol and you've no idea how strong it is, and the only time you find that out is when it's too late, you've consumed it. So that's where we are in the cannabis market at the moment.
And Mark, I mean, there's many arguments around this, of course, for and against. Is there any part of your work on this or your opinions on this that would lead you to think that there might be another way? Because whatever we're doing at the moment clearly isn't working. It's illegal, but it's still there. Damage is caused in lots of different ways, none more so than the areas of gang-related, drug dealing, farms, street crime, all that. You'd remove all of that, wouldn't you, if you gave it the green light to be legal?
Well, you wouldn't really, would you? What you do is you just increase the cannabis farms for skunk, so which are the non-pollinated varieties, I think, of the plant. I'd say, Dave, you're not going to. We're back to the same question, and you ask a question which would prompt me, if I may, to put on my pastor head, which is, the problem with drugs and the problem with alcohol. And if I may just make one other very short point, and that is that you've got to balance what my friend Ian, said, that yes, of course, there's always that attraction to something that's illegal, for drinking, smoking, whatever it is. But you've also got to balance that against the message that the law sends out. When something's illegal, it does discourage people. That's why people make things illegal. So I believe when you balance the two out in the end, the message sent by the law is the stronger one and affects the most people.
Yeah, I mean, can I just put a point then to Ian on this? Because I had this text in from Mike Hookway. Says, why would we want to deliberately introduce and make another make legal another substance. Surely we should be aiming to eradicate addiction, not increase it. If you make this legal, then to answer the question you raised earlier, more people will use it. That can't be a good thing. How would you respond to that, Ian?
Well, I think we already have the evidence of the failure of drug policy. You know, we've had numerous attempts, haven't we, to make a dent in, dealers and supply chains. And here we are 40 years later, after the introduction of this 1971 Misuse of Drugs Act, there are over 2 million people using cannabis. So it's clearly been a failure. And I think we need to be a bit grown up about this and say, look, this policy has failed. If, as this government keeps stating around COVID, they want to follow the evidence, then they need to follow the evidence that they've been provided by their own experts. And their own experts suggest that there should be a policy review. In fact, Dame Carol Black is due to publish a review on drugs very shortly. And, let's see what the government does. Let's see if they, take the decision, be courageous, be grown up, and review where we are, not just with cannabis, but with all drugs.
And Mark, I mean, on that point, lots of states in the US, I mean, there's many areas that surprised us, because you'd think, hang on, some of this is Bible Belt country, and these states are legalizing cannabis. I understand that in Portugal, I think they've had an experiment, and some of the data, perhaps early days, is suggesting this hasn't had a terrible effect on life, and it's achieved precisely what they wanted to do.
During my time at the bar, cannabis went from Class B to Class C, and then it was accepted that was a mistake because it was encouraging, it was sending out the wrong message. It went back to Class B because of the recognized damage it does to people's health. So that's the experience of this country. It's not going to change if you either reduce it to Class C or make it an unclassified drug. Interesting, you mentioned Bible Belt. The real problem is that we've got a vacuum in this nation of moral values and anything to focus ourselves on. So we fill ourselves up with what we can enjoy, drugs, alcohol. And I would suggest that our nation needs to get back to its Christian roots. The Bible has the answer. When I became a Christian, I came to know Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior. It changed my life. It gave me a meaning, it gave me a joy, and it gave me a purpose, and it would do that to anybody.
Happy to hear that. Nice words to finish on. Mark, thank you. Mark Mullins, who's a pastor at Strangers Rest Mission Evangelical Church, also a criminal barrister too. The other voice you heard there, Ian Hamilton, Senior Lecturer in Addiction and Mental Health at York University.